person, MD from Harvard, practicing and teaching modern medicine for over 25 years. Why did she opt for Ayurveda and look into it? What made her change? Listen to this conversation with Dr. Bhaswati Bhattacharya from New York. What made her travel to India to pursue higher education in Ayurveda in spite of being a successful modern medicine practitioner and professor? Okay, good morning from here, and it is good
Good
evening
good evening from here.
in New York.
Yes.
Great. So, just a few words. Okay, Dr. Bhaswati and me, association goes for the past 12, 13 years. Okay, been a wonderful journey, and I've learned a lot from her. And I thought, her wisdom is something which people would be extremely helpful for people worldwide to know what she is and what she does. Okay, so shall we start, Dr. Bhaswati?
Yes.
As we get into the conversations, we'll talk about things, how things happen between us also. Okay. So
Did something happen between us?
yeah. A lot of things, sharing knowledge, a lot of things
Ayurveda.
happen.
Ayush
A lot of
happened on your side and Veda happened on my side. Ayush Veda.
Ayurveda. Okay. So yeah, see, being educated in the modern medical system, apart from that, also into the public health, psychology, neuroscience, biomedical research, and whatnot, and that too from Harvard. My first question is about, with all these things, what brought you to Ayurveda?
So what actually brought me on this earth plane, we're not talking about Purva, Purva Janma or something, but on this earth plane, I was asked to do a film, and they took me to Kerala, and film documented many cases that I was just a young doctor at that time, and it was just after my residency. And I had been to some of the best institutions to learn modern medicine, and we were told certain things were impossible. And then I did this film on Ayurveda, and they were showing me cases of things that were not possible to be treated in modern medicine. And I thought, how is it possible that I'm seeing something with my own eyes, patients with conditions that are diagnosed using lab tests and radiology and not just hearsay? And so this person is diabetic, or this child has cerebral palsy, or this guy does have he's had a stroke, or he is paralyzed, or he's just had a heart attack. Things that are very severe medical events in modern medicine. And these people within 2, 3, 4 weeks had this unusual procedures and processes. Either they were taking panchakarma or using bhasmas or having these Ayurvedic, very bitter drinks morning and evening, or they were having this piece of gold put on their muscle and then like a heat applied to that, or they were having oil put up their, backside, or they were having these different things, and it was changing their medical condition. It was changing their bodies. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. If this is really possible, how come my medical system, which claims to give all options, all evidence-based, all real, all authentic options, how come my schooling never taught this? So I came back from that
Okay, just to
film.
interrupt, which year was this, Dr. Bhaswati? Which year was this?
I think it was maybe 2000.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Carry on. Okay.
So
Sorry, yeah.
I was very surprised. And that film made me see things with my own eyes. And I came back to the US and I said, well, to my teachers, I saw these things and I saw them with my own eyes. How do I not believe them? And their attitude towards me was quite dismissive, like, oh, that's all just, unexplained, anecdotal. Could they do a clinical trial and show this kind of thing? No, this is just a one-time case. There's no proof for it. And so, like any good scientist, I was very curious. And I said, well, I want to understand what the basis of this is. When the film came out, I was, in the film, I was the protagonist, and I was the person that was seeking for these remedies. So people started calling me and writing to me and sending me letters asking for places where I could find these healers. And one man who watched it was the managing director of a big medicine making company in India. And he invited me to come. And when I heard his voice, I felt like I knew him from a long time ago. I couldn't understand it on a logical level. And he turned out that he became my first real teacher of Ayurveda. He brought me to his hospital, which is called a Chikitsalayam, and I stayed there with him. And he had just had an operation, so he needed bed rest, but he was bored. And I'd get sent to his room, and he would sit there and he'd teach me like Shad Kriya Kal. What does it mean? The 6 stages of pathogenesis. And then he would teach me the Shad Darshana. And then, and he didn't sit down and teach me the way that the BAMS curriculum is, but he was teaching me what the doshas were, what dhatus are. So dhatu can mean metal, dhatu can mean tissue, dhatu can mean so many things. But he was teaching me the tissues of the body and how they actually evolve and devolve. So from the moment they're created, there's a fire that's burning. And if it burns wrong or poorly, it starts devolving. And from the moment you breathe, there's a counting of air that's going on. You're moving toward death. And then when you reach a certain number of breaths, you die. So that's thought of as your the way you measure your age by your number of breaths, and all these concepts that kind of made sense, but they were nowhere in biomedical research. And so I started seeing patients
in sync with what you have learned in medical school,
exactly.
right?
So that's where I really learned the basics of Ayurveda. I learned under very amazing people like Tirumulpad gave me the Vidya Rambham, Krishna Kumarji gave me teachings, and that's when I really started learning Ayurveda. I think if I had learned it in the hodgepodge way of the curriculums, I would probably not have believed it as much. But I saw it from an experiential, watching cases, listening to the philosophy, understanding it. And my dad was a veterinarian, so when I got to see animals being treated with Ayurveda, that was very powerful for me. So, places where truth exists in nonverbal ways. It's not written, it's just experienced. And I think that's where a scientist sees evidence, and I saw the evidence of its value. And I felt compelled.
Yeah. So I see you used the word scientist multiple times, and I think that your father also was a scientist, right?
Yes.
In the US, yeah. So and I think a lot of his work also happened in the US. So how, okay, in the sense, okay, what was the influence your parents had? Because you have to have the scientist mentality in you, right? So what was their influence
Well, first of all, we're
in your child?
Bengalis. And Bengalis really, if they're brought up properly, learn how to think. We have to know we have to know at least a few languages. We have to know something about music, and music is about the physics of sound. And we learn about puja. So puja was about light and sound coming together and working with subtle energies. We learned how to feel subtle energies. And we learned that that was part of the experience of being an observer. And science, real science, is about observing. So my father, being a scientist, really taught us how to observe the world around us. Just yesterday, one of my friends lost an object and she didn't realize she lost it. And I was walking by and this door was closing on this office. And I said, "Oh, look at that object there. It looks just like yours." He said, "What?" And I had the woman open the door again, and inside was this bottle. And it turns out that she had left it somewhere and it was hers. I said, "You're so observant." And I thought, there's my father in me. He taught me to be observant. It comes second nature. So when I see patients and I observe things, their gait, the smell that comes from them, the smell on their breath, or the smell as they raise their arm, or the way their hair is graying, or the lines on their face, or puffy places on their face, or where the wrinkles are. All of these things inform me. And I think that's what real science is. You don't have to have a degree in chemistry, physics, biology to be a scientist. And you don't have to have training in a laboratory. You have to be able to ask questions and think critically. And so all of these nautanki, like fake scientists that are basically vocationists that are just taught, put this amount of chemical in this test tube and stir it and read the reading. They don't learn how to observe. And so they're basically like robots. But the ones that look at things in the universe around them and say, why is this way? Their curiosity, the observation, and then thinking about the rules of existence and how it works. That's what science is. And I think my father certainly, he was in biomedical science. My mother was in public health. But my mother was a Bengali. She was a cook. She was a gardener. She was a singer. She played instruments. She played harmonium. She knew so many of the 64 kalas, and they knew of the 14 vidyas. And so they instilled that in us. And I think that's what you got. That's what I got. That's what many people got. Those that didn't get it, I don't care how much money you have. If you don't have those kalas and vidyas, you don't have anything, because you don't have that curiosity. You don't have that sense of exposure to the world around us. So you're not really living fully.
Yeah. And so you also had a few sisters who grew along with you, right?
Yes, my parents had 4 children, and then we had my mother's 5 brothers and sisters, and we had my father's 2 sisters, and then later their kids. And so we had an entire house of, I have to think about how many bedrooms we had when I was growing up, but we had 20 people in the house easily.
So yeah. So
before we moved to America.
I know. So those are things which we call, joint family. Now the definition has changed. If husband and wife live together, it's called a joint family. Things have changed. So see, of late people have started asking me, my kid doesn't eat properly. Okay, so what happens is just a father, mother, and the kid, and kid is not looking at somebody and learning. So when we have kids all around you, we've got 4 or 5 kids, a kid, what it does is usually copies, right? Just like while you were growing, you look at what your dad did, how your dad behaved, or whatever, and the kids have got a tendency to copy. Now, kids don't have the opportunity to copy from, it's either the father or the mother, mother missing also. So, growing up in such an atmosphere, environment helps a lot.
Yes.
So, right? So as you said, and you were telling about picking up a lot of colors, the 64 colors, that thing doing. And I think one of those colors also beauty, And you are active in, if I'm right, you are active in modeling during your college years.
I was.
So how did this actually shape your life?
Well, we're Bengali, so we really pay attention to beauty. Bengalis are either really ugly or really beautiful, but they are always attentive to beauty, whether it's textiles, fabrics, or beautiful smells. The 5 senses, and putting sudrishti, sugandha, surasa, sabshabda, and susparsha. Yes, and to put beautiful and attractive and auspicious. We say auspicious, which just means the soul aligns with the body mind. To have those things around us and to create spaces with those things around us was really important. So beauty was there. And as an Indian woman, I had all of the misogyny of not being valued unless I was attractive. So there was always the wake up in the morning and make sure you look attractive so that when people see you, they should be, they should be pleasantly interfaced with who you are. So I always made sure that I was pretty, but I didn't know that I was beautiful. I didn't see that because my parents actually told me I was very ugly. They said that I looked like a baboon. They said that I was too dark. They said that I didn't have that and didn't have that. And look at my sister. My sister was very beautiful. And so I didn't understand that. When I got to college, of course, I was becoming a woman. So I started at age 15. And there's a different kind of beauty that happens in that, that young womanhood. And so when I wanted to study, and I had a pretty, the story, I had a pretty challenging time in my early years. I didn't have money and I wasn't with my parents anymore. And so I was 15 years old in college trying to survive. And At that time, I think minimum wage was like $5 or $6 an hour, and modeling gave $75 an hour. And they said, all you have to do is just sit and just move your face, move your hair, move your, be graceful. And like, you can't see with my shield on, called my eyeglasses, but if I look in a particular way, it's very alluring. And they liked that. And I found that just giving those looks would bring me so much of money, and holding a bottle of perfume or putting a scarf on my neck. So I did modeling, and it was purely for paying for my science studies, really. So it was there. But beauty is one of the things that actually spurns creativity. And so if you go to the best schools in America, the Ivy League especially, the spaces are created to be extremely beautiful, because that will create an atmosphere of creativity and wanting to learn, wanting to be more curious. And so art and places of beauty are considered, whether it's natural beauty or architectural beauty, it's considered to be very important to have beauty in one's life. So I hope that the physical beauty that I had was able to inspire creativity and beauty in others. And I certainly know in the music world, when I had several friends, they would say that they would want me to sit in front of them because the physical beauty would inspire their music. So
It's true, yeah.
it's just part of being in the material world with vision to see beauty.
Yeah, so what happens is, when you are beauty conscious, the way you keep your room or your office or your premises also has become very beautiful. Because I remember, in 2011 when I came to your Manhattan, should I call that a clinic, or should I call that an office space? I don't know. Whatever it was a very
Both.
cozy, beautiful place. Yeah,
the
way you had
There's
kept
a
it.
library
So
there.
I
There
was
was a beautiful, there's milk in the refrigerator
Yes,
for
it's a
you.
beautiful place, and yeah, and it was a small space, but you know, the space was used to the best possible way. The small bed over there, and I remember, and 2011 was the first time I stepped out to the US, and you were the person who brought me to the US. So I remember those days where I think 2012 or so we had the Ganapati Home or something in your clinic.
Yes, the home
Nice,
was there.
we
And
and we
people
removed the
smelled the
smoke alarm.
smoke, and they came to the door and said, "Do you have a fire inside?" I said, "Yes, it's a homum." They said, "We won't tell anyone, but can we sit for your homum?" So we had some 15 people from the building sitting at the homum. It was very auspicious.
Yes, 2012, if I'm right. That was
Yes.
okay. And yeah, so the clinic and all. See, okay. Now coming to the clinic part, that was I think that is your Dinacharya.
Dinacharya
Okay,
Institute was the school.
Dinacharya. Yeah, yes, Dinacharya is probably you get up and you do things on a daily basis also called Dinacharya, and you getting done with your clinic also. That's yeah, Dinacharya Institute, Manhattan is your institute. So all these things put together, when and where, or you might not be able to put on a single date, but the decision came to take, okay, let me take Ayurveda seriously. So when did that come to you?
I was told in my the day that Krishna Kumarji gave me Diksha, when he tied the ganda around my wrist, he said, "You will always be tied to Ayurveda now. Your job will be to speak the truth about healing and through Ayurveda." And I felt it was right. And I never thought that excluded me from being other things, but I didn't understand the impact of how much it would take me to really be a warrior for Ayurveda. So when I see even Ayurvedic doctors doing all kinds of ridiculous stuff, like this Ayurallopathy kind of thing, I speak out. And I don't feel like I do it from a conscious space. I feel like it's channeled through me from the Aptas who are watching me and following, making sure that I do what's needed on this planet right now to help people connect with that instinct for healing themselves, for taking health back to their own responsibility, and for owning their right to health. And as a someone called me an enthusiast, someone called me a cheerleader, someone calls me a warrior, whatever it is, I am a supporter of Ayurveda. And it was from that moment that my wrist was tied. But I think that when I made the film, I really decided that this is a science that I didn't see until now. And now that I've seen it, I can't pretend like I haven't seen it. So I think from 2000, I really became committed to Ayurveda. When the Robert Sapir article came out about lead and the heavy metals in the different medicines, and it was just so ridiculous because it was a completely unscientific, completely biased article, and it was published in such a big journal. I thought, how come these Ayurvedic doctors don't know how to stand up for themselves? If we don't stand up, then all patients are going to lose the right to all Ayurvedic medicines, whether it's your Gandharva Hastadi Kashaya, or whether it's Swarna Bhasma, or whether it's, the small pills, or the ghees, or the lepas, or any of the medicines, because they don't understand the difference. I better do something. I better stand up. And I just decided, I think that was 2003 or 4, that I just decided I'm going to have to take a vocal stand and spend some time talking, with authorities, because none of the Ayurvedic doctors is doing it. They're all busy staying quiet. And I think that's when I really committed to Ayurveda. Yeah.
Yeah. So
How
as a
can
part of
something
it,
work? Yeah. How can something work and the patients have a right to it, but the patients can't get to it because the ones who should be the vocal, propagators are not speaking out in defense of it? Then, like, who's going to get it to the patients? It's going to disappear. It's going to be banned. So I better do something.
Great. Yep. Yes, great. So as a part of that, I think probably you also came to BHU. Okay,
That
as
was
the
years later,
years
2013.
later, right?
Yeah, 2013,
So
I
it
went
took
to
you
BHU.
10 years to reach BHU.
Yes, because nobody was doing anything about bhasmas. And I realized that if I just got a certification in Ayurveda, which I did in the US after that, so Krishna Kumarji had taught me, but I needed to have a certification to be taken, seriously in Ayurveda. And even then, these Ayurvedic Vaidyas would say, oh, she's not a real Ayurvedic doctor. She just has a certification. So I thought I needed a degree. And I couldn't get another I have enough bachelors, so I couldn't get another bachelor. So I thought, okay, I can get another PhD at least. So I
So you
applied.
came to BHU
I came to BHU.
as the world's first US senior Fulbright scholar. You came for a
Yes,
year.
that was as a faculty. That was to teach. I was on the faculty of BHU. I was guest faculty, and the dean actually was the one who was supposed to invite me. The agreement with Fulbright as a host was signed by another faculty member, an opportunist actually. And then I came to BHU and I worked as a faculty doing research and teaching, and I was focused on Ojas. And during that year, the dean invited me to stay after my Fulbright was finished and work on a PhD as a PhD student. So I went from being a faculty in that department to being a student in that department.
So that's how you stayed back to
I
do a
stayed back,
PhD in
yes.
Ayurveda.
And I started the PhD in 2014 after my year from 2013 to 14 was finished with my Fulbright, yes.
And what are your experiences of Kashi?
My mother's mother grew up in Kashi. And so when I was doing my Fulbright, I was thinking of going to IIT Bombay to work with some great nanotechnologists there, or IIT Kharagpur. And I could go basically anywhere because it's a very, prestigious award. But I decided that I wanted to be a place where metals from the soil to the stomach, could be studied. And I realized that BH is the only place on the planet where you can do that in one campus. So I found myself in Banaras. My mother said, okay, you can go there. It's a very dangerous place because Kashi's, full of mafia and thugs, but your uncle is still there. So you can go there and you'll have at least some, protection. So I went there and I fell in love with Kashi. Kashi has a certain three loka. There are people that exist on the energy level that you will never see unless you are worthy. There are people that live on a very ugly, very base level. They are mean, they are cruel, they are violent, they are, not good people. They are the asuras in modern form. And then there are these people that are wise and they are conduits, and they will help you to learn things if they just sense that your energy is curious and authentic. And they are in every subject, whether it's music or puja or astronomy or water. So there's a whole bunch of Ganga researchers, and also Ayurveda. But every subject, not just those, every religion, every philosophy. And so I love Kashi because it reminds me that before we had laws on the earth, we had people who lived in small societies, and Kashi was that. Kashi was a city before almost every other city developed. And so when they violate the traffic rules, they say, traffic rules? We were walking on these streets before there were traffic rules. We're going to make the rules. We're going to do it our way. And they just violate laws. Like, what are laws? Laws have just been around for 100 years. We've been around before that. My ancestors were here for the last 500 years before those laws arrived. So it's a very rebellious place, and yet it is full of, well, I don't know. You've been there. You've stayed at my house.
Yes.
What did you think of Kashi?
Yeah, and I was so, as as you said about the rules, I was so amazed to see you ride your Honda Activa two-wheeler there, and me sitting behind you, and going against all traffic rules, and so, and
But
the thing is
surviving.
that as long as as long as there is the physical guy, the policeman who doesn't guide you the wrong way, people are comfortable doing all those things and getting away. There's absolutely no
Well,
problem.
but there is a
It is so
rule.
much of peace in that chaos. There.
There is, and because they follow one rule. And the rule is that no two vehicles or cows or entities can be in the same place at the same time. That's the rule. It's kind of like atoms and electrons, electrons traveling around the clouds around of a nucleus. They don't clash into each other. There's a rule, there's a master rule in the universe that says these electrons are circulating in different ways, in different planes, and they never collide into each other. Same with the traffic in Kashi.
Yeah. And Ganga is there, the icing.
The Ganga is a special place. People can say all the stuff they want about how the Ganga is not clean. And a lot of Indians like to say bad things, especially outside of India. Indians like to say bad things about India. Oh, the Ganga's not clean. Ganga's not this. But you talk to the Kashi people, they have been descending those 100 stairs at the ghats to go take a bath in the Ganga. Their skin doesn't fall off. They don't get sick. They don't. In fact, people heal. People heal. People get cured of diseases. And it's a mystery. There's a lot of mysteries about the silt in the Ganga that actually purifies the waters. And there is actually a lot of science known, but I think Indians are tired of modern people commanding, demanding, and kind of conquering. So they're like, well, if we tell them the truth, they'll just come and try to exploit it. So we don't need them to know the truth. We don't need them to know about the Ganga. Let them go and work with their own rivers. So there is a lot of knowledge once they know that you are loyal to the truth and that you're not going to give it to the wrong people. And it's this unwritten rule. And I find that when I learn things in Kashi, it's phenomenal for me because the gravity of the truth is amazing. Whether it's, an Ayurvedic medicine that I've learned about, or some of the greatest information about bhasmas. And it's not at the university in these, ridiculous faculty members. It's in the truth of the people who've been using bhasmas to heal incurable diseases in patients. And once you watch it,
For
you just
thousands of
realize
years.
for at least thousands of years, yes. It's pretty magical. I mean, it's only magical because we say magical is that which we don't understand. But if you just accept that not everyone in every part of society is worthy of learning all knowledge, then you understand that a lot of that exists. People in Kashi understand how to make bronze to be an amazing tool. and they know those secrets. You can go and do your metallurgy degree at some, modern physics and chemistry facility. You're never going to be able to make that kind of bronze for those tools or for those medicines. Not usually medicines, but for the containers. And the way that they do it is absolutely replicable and absolutely scientific in the sense of being in the material world observable, but they just don't discuss it. And I find that that is what a lot of healing is about. So in Ayurveda, when I learn about certain medicines, and I wonder why it's not popularly known, I realize it's because if it got to be popularly known, some guy would patent it or try to steal it or try to exploit it or try to take shortcuts. You know about this being part of Nagarjuna. People make medicines and they do falseness. They say, let's not use the goat milk for the anutailam. We'll just take the chemicals found in the goat milk and we'll just add synthetic versions of that, natural flavor or natural compound. There's nothing natural made about it. It's all synthetic in a lab. And they add it and they call it anutailam. Do you think that their anutailam is going to give you the same healing effect as the actual anutailam made with, a few drops of goat's milk? It's not. Now try to explain that to the pharmacies or the pharmaceutical regulators like the FDA or to any of the other authorities. And people in Kashi just say, we've been here doing this before you guys were even making laws. We're not even going to tell you because you're too stupid to know what the actual way of making this medicine is. You don't value the process of Shodhana. What are we going to have a conversation with, about? We're not even going to tell you. So Kashi is a magical place because true wisdom is there. It's where the arrow, was shot between the gold, the silver, and the copper through the three lokas to slay the asuras of the three dimensions of untruth on Kartik Purnima.
The three things when they came in alignment,
three lokas
shot from there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Symbol.
Hope you're enjoying this conversation. Come back for the next part.